the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kasmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up, a major fire at the Akosombo substation knocks out nearly 1,000 megawatts from Ghana's national power supply. We'll go live there shortly to bring you the latest. Also on the program, tensions rise in South Africa as Ghanaians take to the streets today, protesting a surge in xenophobic attacks targeting foreign nationals. But for now, let's go to the Labadi Beach Hotel now, where the government is launching the National AI Strategy. The President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, is currently speaking.
$20 million to support the short to medium term implementation of the National AI Strategy. These investments are bold but necessary. The proposed AI Computing Center will serve as a net center for research, innovation and enterprise, enabling Ghanaian talent to build solutions not only for our country but also for the wider African continent. However, we recognize that government alone cannot build a thriving AI ecosystem. Success will require strong partnerships among the state, academia, civil society, industry, and our development partners. This strategy is itself the product of such a collaboration, with contributions from the Ministry of Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation, that's Sam George and his team. And let me also acknowledge the UK High Commission for your support in developing the strategy, the GIZ, the UN group, and responsible AI lab at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and other industry stakeholders who have all been helpful in this process. I wish to express the gratitude of Ghanaians to you. So to all our partners, I say thank you. And to those who have yet to join this effort, I extend an invitation to partner with us in implementing this strategy. Invest in Ghanaian talent, support Ghanaian innovation, work with us to build an AI future anchored in inclusion, shared prosperity, and African relevance. This strategy will be implemented over a 10-year period with clear targets and indicators across all its pillars. We intend to monitor progress closely and ensure that implementation remains disciplined and purposeful. One of the most critical steps will be to establish a responsible artificial intelligence office to oversee implementation, coordinate stakeholders, and drive the strategy's objectives. By 2035, our ambition is to have built a truly national AI ecosystem, one that expands literacy and access, strengthens job and entrepreneurship, supports local innovation, deepens data sovereignty, promotes indigenous language technologies, and improves the performance of the public service. We envision a future in which AI is embedded across our educational system, where innovation hubs flourish beyond Accra, where universities lead in frontier research, where Ghanaian startups scale globally, where our informal sector and persons with disability are not excluded from technological process, where we respect gender in terms of the rollout of AI, where our civil and public service becomes fully capable of leading AI-enabled transformation. The Curriculum Review Committee of the Ministry of Education, which is reviewing the basic level curriculum, has been tasked to complete its work by the end of June this year. And we'll be introducing AI, coding, robotics, and electronics at the basic level to prepare our children for the digital future ahead of them. This is the Ghana we seek to build. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this strategy does more than set policy direction. It issues a national call to action. It calls on government to lead responsibly. It calls on academia to innovate boldly. It calls on the private sector to invest with confidence. It calls on our youth to prepare with urgency, and it calls on all of us to work together to ensure that AI becomes a force for inclusion, productivity, creativity, and national progress. Let us therefore move forward with confidence, with discipline, and with ambition. Let us build an AI future that is not imported, but is shaped by our own values. Let us deploy innovation not for its own sake, but in the service of our people. And let us ensure that in this new technological age, Ghana leads with vision, purpose, and responsibility. And so, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, at this juncture, it's now my singular honor and privilege to officially declare the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy of Ghana duly launched.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. You will now take your seat.
And you just heard right there President John Mahama launching the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy. And if you're just joining us, this is the Midday News on Shri FM 92.7. Just a few points from what the President said earlier. Before we crossed over, he had already said that the government would ensure that this is coordinated well so that the sovereignty of individuals or Ghanaians is not subjected to anything that is not right. But again, he talked about the fact that this will be implemented, this strategy will be implemented over a period of 10 years. And the president also said that there will be an office which will be set up, a responsible artificial intelligence office will be set up to coordinate activities regarding the implementation of this strategy. Also, apparently, there's a committee that's already working on this to ensure that this works properly for the country. This committee is expected to submit its work by the end of June this year, 2026. And we also heard the president say that the National Artificial Intelligence Strategy issues a national call to action, and Ghana must eventually lead with vision and purpose. Of course, you would expect that will bring you some more later. Let's bring you some more here. And a fire outbreak at a substation in Akosombo in the Eastern Region has damaged a transmission system with a capacity of about 720 megawatts. The Ministry of Energy and Green Transition has disclosed this hours after the fire was brought under control late Thursday night, which is last night. Now, the affected system accounts for nearly 70% of the power transmission capacity linked to the Akosombo Dam. The fire outbreak at the Gridco substation at Akosombo has been brought under control, with engineers currently assessing the extent of damage. The spokesperson and head of communications at the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition, Richmond Roxin, spoke to the media earlier about this development.
As a way of precaution, that's what we did to be able to shut it down. Because if you are not careful, you end up damaging other systems. And so, I'm sure that this morning, after the technical assessment by the engineers, they will advise on the way forward. And then we'll know the extent of damage and then what needs to be done. What I can assure you is that our engineers are very experienced. We are working assiduously to be able to resolve the issue as soon as possible. And so we are monitoring developments, as I mentioned yesterday. I mentioned today, the minister is going there any moment from now to assess the situation himself.
And he had the PRO for the Energy Ministry, Richmond Roxin. Earlier, my colleague Joseph Armstrong spoke to the Chief Fire Officer Daniela Mausi in Tow Sapon. Listen.
Thank you very much. So we've seen you are here this early morning, and then I've seen your men here. We are told that, first of all, the fire personnel yesterday did a great job by trying to douse the fire, but there's a challenge which probably could have maybe lead to an early fighting of this fire. Do you want to brief us?
Yes, the head of the fire around 14:05 hours and they were swift enough to come here. When they got here, they had some challenges. There was a need for them to break through, and that took a bit of a time, but eventually, so far so good this hour. Fire.
So far, so good. We are told fire tenders have to come all the way from Somanya to help douse the fire.
Yes, for now, Akosombo fire engine is being repaired. It has some challenges, it's being repaired. That is why they had to come from that far. But very soon, I'm sure by next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, it will be on road.
It will be on the road?
Yes.
Very well. So, Madam, if you can just give me a minute, let me talk to the commander who was here yesterday, who was in charge yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday around 14:05 hours, we received a distress call from the officer in charge of safety at this facility, Mr. Ebenezer Sabute, that fire had gutted the switchyard of Gridco. So we came here within record time to assess the scene and realized that the fire was traveling to some other areas. So we quickly had to relay that information to our regional control, and also we also relayed the information to Somenya, which is the nearby station, and Akuse. So they got in here and managed the situation, but they realized accessibility was the problem. Accessing the seat of fire was a little challenge. So we had to talk to VNRA. So they brought in 2 payloaders to create access for us before we were able to have a fair idea of where the fire was traveling to. And in record time, we were able to douse the fire.
But for how long has your fire engine been out of commission?
It's been 3 weeks now.
It's been 3 weeks now?
Yes, please. And efforts have been done to get it on road again.
You are told it's about parts?
Yes, please.
You are still looking for parts too?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, so the chief officer is on it. She's trying to get support so that we can put the truck back on road.
Very well. So back to the chief officer, then I hand over to you in the studios. So first of all, you've assessed the situation. Any other thing you want to add?
No, we don't want to add. It's a very unfortunate this thing has happened. If it happens like that, the whole of Ghana, the government has problems. Money that could be used for something has been diverted now. And we just pray that nothing of this sort happens again. And then we want to reassure the public that anytime there's an emergency, we are there 24/7 to support.
No.
And you had that conversation with Daniela Mausi Ntosapon, who is the Chief Fire Officer with the Ghana National Fire Service, speaking to my colleague Joseph Armstrong. We stay a bit longer on energy because the Africa Sustainable Energy Center is expressing concern over the ongoing power outages affecting various parts of Ghana and is calling for urgent structural and technological reforms to improve system reliability across the energy value chain. ASEC is demanding that all stakeholders, including the government, regulators, utility providers and development partners, to prioritize long-term resilience over short-term fixes. A coordinated national effort is required to stabilize the grid and secure Ghana's energy future. I'm joined via video call now by Engineer Justice Ohini Akoto, Executive Director of the Africa Sustainable Energy Center. He joins us via video call, like I just said. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, good afternoon, Beatrice. And then, yes, a good afternoon to your listeners and viewers as well.
How serious is the current situation compared to previous years, aside from what we just reported, which is the fire at Akosombo substation, which obviously also led to some power outages last night?
Okay, so when it comes to the seriousness of the situation, for me, I think it's very high. And then now, what I always say is that we need to treat this power issue as a national security threat, and then also a national emergency. So what goes on here is that we have something that we call power system adequacy and reliability. So the adequacy is basically demand and supply. So at the moment you have a peak load a little over 4,000 megawatts, and then you have the installed capacity just around 5,000 megawatts. And then usually this is what we have at the moment. And then if we are producing, let's say around 4,500 to meet the demand of 4,300, and then you have a shortfall of over 700 megawatts, then that is a chunk number of it. So meaning majority of the demand will not be getting their electricity. So this is where the demand and supply needs comes in. Yes, already the margin is not that much that we can really fall on any shortfall within it. So that is the adequacy. When it comes to the reliability, it's about how robust, how strong the grid system is. We see that just at the moment, I'll say the grid is very fragile. I mean, it just needs a lot of infrastructural reforms. We see pockets of transformers burning and all those things. It might be something that will be intentional, right? And then there are also parts that the transformers are they've overheated for a very long time, and then they need to catch those fires. So those are infrastructural pitfalls that we have within the system that we are calling strongly that there has to be a system upgrade.
We already know, we've heard the Energy Ministry tell us that currently there is ongoing upgrading of our systems across the country. You do not think that these are enough as regards the kind of measures you're looking for?
Oh, at the moment, we do. First of all, we think it's been long overdue, and then secondly, I think we can do more. When we are having a system upgrade, we have something that we call redundancy. I mean, we should be able to find a way to upgrade a system without the system suffering. That is what we should be thinking about, and that is what we should be doing. We should be able to introduce redundancy into the system where, I mean, one line going off, we should be able to have, I mean, there's another line to follow. That is one. And then secondly, we haven't really done much when it comes to deploying emerging technologies. It can be artificial intelligence, or the ECG recently spoke about going to use drones to monitor the lines and the system, which we at African Sustainable Energy Center commend them strongly. We hope we'll be able to implement it the right way. So at the moment, I would say what is going on, it's not enough. We should be able to do a system retrofit without hurting the system. Emerging technologies, as I said, it's been long overdue. I mean, we are trying to tap into it, but we have to expedite our activities.
You talk about a number of challenges that we need to fix. Amongst them, which one would you say should be the priority now?
Yeah, so let me start from, see, when it comes to the power sector, we have the generation bits. So the generation, we have VRA, we have the IPPs. The capacity issue has to be resolved. We see growing, I mean, population, urbanization going high. The demand keeps going high. So we need to strongly invest into the supply bits to be able to have a lot of margins that we can fall on anytime. An issue that happened is an example saying Ghana Gas, their better management system going off. If we had other alternatives and other resources, we would have fallen on those rather than waiting for the better management system to impede supply of gas to some of the thermal plants. So the generation bit itself, we need to be able to increase the capacity. Then when it comes to the transmission, that is WICO, at the moment, most of the equipment we are using are outdated, and then most of them at the moment are at the highest stress level. That's why we see transformers, I mean, burning, probably overloading. We see cable lines sagging, increasing the technical losses. So we have to also retrofit the transmission bit heavily. Then the second bit, the third bit is the distribution, that is the ECG. First of all, ECG, they need a structural reform. That is, I mean, component infrastructure replacement. They need the power lines itself, their transformers, and then other stuff. And then the other bit that ECG needs is revenue mobilization. At the moment, ECG is not able to collect over 30% of the revenue that that they are supposed to generate. Meaning the power that they sell to the customers, they are not able to generate 30% of it.
I'm sorry, we'll have to end it here because of time, but thank you very much for speaking to us. And I had Engineer Justice Ohini Akoto. He's the Executive Director of Africa Sustainable Energy Center. Thank you so much for joining in and sharing your thoughts with us. In another development, the Electricity Company of Ghana has cautioned the general public against the growing menace of cable theft, calling on the public to remain vigilant and support efforts to safeguard critical power infrastructure. This caution was delivered by Engineer Fred Kwabena-Bediako, General Manager for Special Projects at ECG, during the management tour of the Ashanti Region.
To that, as I in early on indicated, there's been some theft on our cables, and so we are trying to serve the general public, and it's our duty as ECG to provide that level of reliability to our customers. And so it is a joint responsibility as citizens of this country to also be watchful when it comes to the infrastructure of ECG, because at the end of the day, it goes to serve the community. You may look at it that is moving from one substation to the other, but the substation is actually connected to the various individuals, and so it will affect all of us if all of these theft issues continue. So we would appeal to the general public to be watchful and question anybody that is doing anything untoward when it comes to the infrastructure of ECG. It all belongs to the country at the end of the day. And so basically, we are grateful for your time and attention.
And you had the Engineer Kwabena-Bediako, General Manager for Special Projects at ECG, speaking during the management tour of the Ashanti region. We stay in that region because the Public Accounts Committee has expressed a strong dissatisfaction over the misuse of funds meant for feeding students in some senior high schools. On day 4 of the hearing, the committee raised concerns about the diversion of money allocated for perishable food items to support administrative and operational expenses. There is more in the following report.
The scrutiny focused on officials of some senior high schools who admitted using monies meant for student feeding to cover running and maintenance costs. Committee members described the action as a clear breach of financial regulations, insisting that funds allocated for specific purposes must not be diverted under any circumstances.
So, maintenance costs and others delayed in coming.
Yes, please.
Then you use the monies that you are supposed to use to purchase foodstuffs for the children.
Yes, please. Honorable.
For running and maintenance costs, and then you go out there and say government hasn't brought enough money, we cannot feed the students, we cannot do this, we cannot do that.
Honorable, what happened was that as cost center manager,
yes,
the school needed to be run, and those expenditure that I just mentioned were equally important for us to undertake.
Were equally important.
Yes, Honorable.
But then what does the law say about using funds meant for specific purposes differently, other than the purpose for which it was used for? What does the law say?
Honorable, I can't quote the law verbatim, but I know it is wrong. That shouldn't have been done.
You are not even telling us how you are going to reimburse the monies, the accounts of the monies you took from. You are not the only school. In all, there are about 18, and it's just 5 of you who were cited for this. Monies meant to feed students are not to be used to run the operations of the school.
Chairperson of the committee, Abeno Osei-Asare, advised school authorities to cut down expenditure and operate within their means rather than resorting to unauthorized use of restricted funds. The Public Accounts Committee says it expects full compliance and corrective action before the next audit cycle, warning that repeat violations will not be tolerated.
Ibrahim Abubakar filed that report from us from the Ashanti region. For months, Ghana's railway workers have gone without pay, while Galamsey operators also threaten rail lines which are being revamped. Tonight, the government is drawing a line. Transport Minister Joseph Bukari Nikpe says every CD owed will be paid by the end of April, and he's laying out an even bigger plan to connect the Western Rail Line to every mining site in the region to keep the system alive. Irama Smith joined the minister on his tour of the Western Line and brought us this report.
One of the headaches of Ghana's rail sector is salary arrears, as government struggles to settle a sector which is not generating enough income. But the Transport Minister, Joseph Bukari Nikpe, assures all will be paid by the end of April.
we came into office when there was no single rail line operating. Now, we all are aware that you create these services for them to be operational, make money, pay the workers, and then maybe pay some dividends to government. It is not operational. How are they going to be paid? And so we inherited a system that was totally collapsed, not functioning, and they couldn't raise money to pay themselves. As we talk today, we have been able to pay 8 months of those salary arrears that we inherited, and we are working hard. By the end of this month, we are going to clear the rest of the arrears for all our railway workers. We sympathize with them. We share the pain with them. But the fact of the matter is that we have to tackle the bull by the horn.
But pay is only part of the problem. The minister says sustainability means getting the rails to where the money is, and that is to the mines across the Western region. The minister was accompanied by the CEO of the Railways Development Authority to assess progress of work on the Western rail lines.
Our aim is to be able to reach to all the mining sites. That is where we will have a very sustainable rail infrastructure or rail system in our country. And thankfully, the Western region is one of the regions that is endowed with all these mineral resources. So today, we have sent for ourselves, and we are going to ensure that our consultants will work close hand with Amadi Construction Limited to get the sleepers and be able to finish up the 8 kilometers that we have agreed with them to do.
Irama Smith filed that report from the Western region. The Minister for Communications, Digital Technology and Innovation and the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Samuel Nate George has launched a sharp attack on the Ghana AIDS Commission over its distribution of lubricants to men who have sex with men, arguing that such expenditure undermines the Commission's core mandate and diverts resources from critical public health priorities. Mr. George made the remarks on Thursday during parliamentary deliberations on the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2025, of which he is a lead sponsor.
The likes of Global Fund claim that they are giving support to Ghana AIDS Commission. Okay. And what is supposed to be the umbrella reason why they are supporting Ghana AIDS Commission? HIV prevention. Meanwhile, we have evidence of Ghana AIDS Commission officers meeting with pro-LGBTQ groups and giving them lubricants. So if Ghana AIDS Commission is supposed to fight HIV, why are you giving lubricants for men to have anal sex with men? And the excuse that they give, and the excuse that is given is that these are people who already have HIV, and so they want them to not spread it, so they are giving them lubricants. That in itself is an activity that continues to perpetrate anal sex between men. So please, we will not open the window for anybody to bring any money for public health or anything. If they really want to fund public health, they should go and give maternal beds for women who do not have beds for delivery, not for anything relative or related to this one. This one won't open the door. No.
And you had the Minister for Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation and the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram St. George. That's it for the Midday News here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Log on to 3news.com for more news. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, Ghana to co-debut the Emerging Technology Bill as it takes stake claims as Africa's AI hub.
Developing an emerging technologies bill. This bill will provide the legal backing needed to deploy artificial intelligence and other frontier technologies in Ghana effectively and responsibly.
Also, the Bank of Ghana targets digital lending and virtual asset in 2026 regulatory crackdown. And much later in this bulletin, the government of Ghana eyes 4.48 billion cedis in treasury bill to break the undersubscription streak. I am Enyonam Haligaditus of our headlines and other stories. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to a first story now where the Minister of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation has announced the development of the Emerging Technology Bill, a piece of legislation designed to provide the legal framework for artificial intelligence and other frontier technologies in Ghana. The Sector Minister, Samuel Nate George, made the announcement at the launch of the National AI Strategy in Accra. Now, this national strategy signals a shift towards a responsible and respectful approach to digital transformation.
Strong legal and institutional framework must support our policy. As part of ongoing sector legislative reviews, the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation is developing an emerging technologies bill. This bill will provide the legal backing needed to deploy artificial intelligence and other frontier technologies in Ghana effectively and responsibly. At the same time, the ministry seeks to further strengthen key national institutions, including the National Information Technology Agency, the Data Protection Commission, and the Cybersecurity Authority. As we move forward, we do so with responsibility. We are not interested in reckless adoption of AI. We are committed to responsible and ethical AI. Together, we're building systems that protect fairness, ensure privacy, and foster trust. This strategy marks the beginning of a clear journey. The Right Honourable Speaker and Chair for the occasion, we count on your leadership in Parliament as the requisite legal instruments come before the House. To our special guest of honour, Your Lordship the Chief Justice, I trust that the judiciary will guide our ethical and legal application of artificial intelligence. Ghana stands ready and capable of leading and becoming Africa's AI hub.
And you heard that the Minister of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Samuel Nate George. Now, away from that, the Bank of Ghana has signaled a major policy shift in its oversight of digital finance sector, moving from a period of rapid expansion to one defined by rigorous governance and system resilience. The Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Johnson Isiama, has told the industry leaders that while the Central Bank remains a supporter of innovation, the era of growth without deep regulatory guidelines has come to an end. There's more in the following 3 Business report. The Bank of Ghana has outlined a transition towards a deeper regulatory architecture anchored by 3 critical legislative and directive updates. Fintechs are now being integrated into the Financial Industry Command Security Operations Center to tackle rising cyber threats. The 2025 Virtual Asset Act and the new directives for digital lenders aim to curb speculation and ensure fair and sustainable credit. Acknowledging that digital finance is inseparable from cyber risk, the bank is now onboarding fintechs onto the Financial Industry Command Security Operations Center to provide a unified defense against threats. According to the central bank, mobile money and interoperable payment have successfully brought millions into the former financial fold. However, the bank warned that unregulated scale creates systemic risk, adding that speed without safeguard weakens confidence. The governor highlighted open banking as the next frontier for Ghana, envisioning a secure, consent-based system that allows consumers more control over their data while fostering a more competitive ecosystem. Dr. Isiama have revealed that the central bank is exploring tokenization and blockchain to streamline investment for the Ghanaian diaspora, targeting seamless access to government securities and real estate. According to the Bank of Ghana, To survive the next decade, innovation must now be matched by integrity of the financial system. That was a 3 Business News Desk report on the BOG targeting digital lending and virtual asset in 2026 regulatory crackdown. Now, the government of Ghana is set to return to the domestic market today with a target rising 4.47 billion cedis through Treasury bill auction. This auction is seen as a critical step of market liquidity and investor appetite following a challenging start to the second quarter. There's more in the following 3 Business report.
The target covers the standard 3 tenors, the 91-day, 182-day and 364-day bills. The move comes as the Treasury seeks to refinance maturing debt and support government expenditure under the 2026 fiscal framework. The April 24 auction follows a worrying trend in the money markets following a 5th consecutive week in 2026 that government had failed to meet its borrowing targets. Market analysts point to several factors contributing to the recent undersubscriptions. Commercial banks and institutional investors appear to be holding on to cash, potentially due to rising reserve requirements or seasonal demands. Investors are increasingly pushing for higher interest rates to compensate for inflation, leading to a wait-and-see approach. Despite a reported decline in the total debt-to-GDP ratio at the end of 2025, the surge in domestic debt to 333.8 billion cedis has kept the market cautious. To bridge the gap, government may need to allow yields to drift slightly higher in the coming weeks to entice primary dealers.
Some other stories now, as the Bank of Ghana has intensified its campaign to promote Borrowers and Lenders Act, that's Act 1052, asserting that the framework's success depends heavily on public awareness and active utilization by both the financial institution and the borrowing public. This was highlighted at a sensitization workshop on borrowing and lending organized in collaboration with the Bank of Ghana.
Speaking on behalf of the second Deputy Governor, Advisor to the Governor, Frank Libelnie, emphasized that a lack of understanding regarding the secured transactions framework remains a significant hurdle in the country's credit infrastructure. This knowledge gap, he noted, continues to act as a barrier for many individuals and small businesses seeking access to much-needed credit.
Despite the critical role that the private sector plays in the economy, it faces persistent challenges in accessing the financing needed to start, sustain, and grow their businesses. This results in rising borrowing costs and cautious risk appetites among lenders, ultimately slowing down job creation, innovation, and growth. The Bank of Ghana, through its ongoing financial sector reforms and policy interventions, has taken deliberate steps to address some of these challenges to create an enabling environment for credit availability and growth.
President of the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, Dr. Kofi Nsiapoku, called for clear and transparent rules on access to credit in Ghana. Credit must be cost-effective and inclusive to truly support businesses. Clearer guidelines, he argued, would help level the playing field and ensure more entrepreneurs can access affordable financing.
The Borrowers and Lenders Act 2020 represents a major step forward in promoting responsible lending, protecting borrowers' rights, and enhancing transparency and efficiency within our credit system. For businesses, especially small and medium enterprises, access to finance remains a critical pillar for growth, expansion, and sustainability. However, access must be supported by clear rules, mutual accountability, and a shared understanding of rights and obligations.
The workshop brought together regulators, lenders, and members of AGI to discuss ways to improve Ghana's credit ecosystem and boost private sector development.
And that's all for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more news, please check our website at 3news.com. I am Enyunam Haliga. Stay with us.